Make yourselves comfortable, folks. Okay. Make yourselves comfortable. Oh, there we can hear me. Come on in, everybody. Welcome. I am so grateful to see you all here tonight. Thank you so much. Come on in, everybody. So I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Patty Koplitz. I'm the Director of Children, Youth, and Family Ministry here at Our Saviors. I really do appreciate y'all coming. This is a project that has been a passion of mine for years about mental health awareness and suicide prevention, stress, anxiety in adolescence, things of that nature. So I really appreciated that Pastor John had thought of this and invited Pastor Doug come along and talk to you guys tonight. So we have a couple of housekeeping rules. First of all, there's going to be opportunity for questions. If you prefer not to raise your hand, that is fine. We have paper and pencils back there that you can just write a question and hand it to a grown-up, okay? And we'll get those questions. We also have a rule here in our church, part of our covenant, is that when we're in community, which this is, we don't have our phones out, all right? My phone is put away, it's turned off. I'm going to ask you guys to do the same thing, just to be respectful to our speaker and to our time together. Does that make sense? Okay, thank you. So I would guess I'm going to take this opportunity to say thank you so much, Doug, for coming tonight. This is Doug Bisbee. He is from the Samaritan Counseling Center in Menasha?
Yes, Menasha.
Menasha. And so thank you very much. Oh, first, I think I have something in my pocket here. This is something we wanted to present to you, okay? Thank you so much for
Well, you're
coming.
welcome. Maybe you should wait till I'm done.
No.
And then,
No.
I mean, maybe it's not. It's good to be here. My name is Doug Bisbee. I am wearing our brand new name tags. We are no longer Samaritan Counseling. We're just Samaritan. We aren't good Samaritan. We're just Samaritan. We're not that good, okay? So we are Samaritan, and it's good to be with you. Just a little bit about myself. I live in Neenah. I'm a Neenah resident, and I was an ELCA pastor for over 20 years, and then I decided to work in the mental health field, and so I've been doing this for 11 or 12 years now, and I am now a lowly tonsured reader in the Orthodox Church in America. So that's where I now hang out church-wise. But it is good to be with you this evening. We're going to talk a little bit about mental health, various things about it, ways of managing it and treating it. We're going to talk a little bit about our faith and how it might be of help as well. And Doug will field questions, all right? And it's okay if I refer to myself in the third person. I'm a professional mental health counselor, nothing to fear. And I have a colleague here tonight who can help out if all of a sudden, things go a little sideways. So I'll try to keep speaking in the first person. It just makes it that much easier. Anxiety. Anxiety is probably, I'm sorry, I like to wander. You people are so close. Lutherans don't sit this close. But it's good. It's okay, though. I mean, we can learn new habits in that. So if I walk this way once in a while, it's not that I'm trying to be insulting to you. I have to move. Or no, they're doing good. I was teasing the pastor that the DNA is strong in this room. Strong. We got a lot of Lutherans in the back of the room. Yeah. It's kind of like the force is strong. Anxiety. Back to anxiety. Anxiety is probably the number one mental health disorder out there. I probably don't need to define it, but what is anxiety? It's worries, right? Being nervous about things. Anxiety can sometimes cause us to not want to do things, right? We don't want to maybe go out. We don't want to hang out with our friends. Sometimes school contributes to that anxiety. All right, like I said, it's probably the number one mental health disorder out there. Now, anxiety has a close cousin, and that is depression. All right? When I talk about anxiety and depression, I often talk about them as being different sides of the same coin. All right? So if anxiety is worry and nervousness and feeling overwhelmed and not feeling comfortable, sometimes not even comfortable in our own skin, depression is that sadness. Sometimes it's fatigue. Same sort of thing. Depression can cause us to withdraw and not do things with friends and others around us. And these are very real mental health disorders, okay? They can run in families, all right? I often like to talk about mental health as just health in general. It can be a medical condition, all right? Are there any medical conditions that run in our family? My family is heart disease, all right? Heart disease runs in my family. My father has it. I have it. I have to watch my cholesterol, all right? Sometimes we have to take medication, right, to manage medical things like cholesterol. We have to make lifestyle changes, right? When we have a health issue, maybe we have to exercise a little bit, watch what we eat, all right? The same is true with mental health disorders. To treat those sometimes, we have to use medications to do that, and we have to make lifestyle changes with them. Now, if someone has depression, what's one of the questions that person asks themselves constantly? Do I feel like doing this? Isn't that a strange question to ask ourselves? Do I feel like doing this? I'm supposed to go work out at the gym today, and my mind starts saying, do I feel like going to the gym today? Nah, I think I'll stay home and have those two, what are they called? What are those desserts? Ring dings? What are they called? Ho-hos? What are they? The chocolate, they got the swirl. Do you know what I'm talking about here? Rolos? That doesn't sound right either. Ho-ho? Is there such a thing as a ho-ho? Ding-dongs? What are they called? What are these things called? Bonbons? I don't know. Remember Suzy Q's? Was that something out there? Yeah. Or how about Twinkies? Twinkies? I digress. Okay. When we have depression, in all seriousness, typically one of the questions that we ask ourselves is, do I feel like doing whatever it may be? And I often use that as kind of a red flag, right? If my mind starts bringing this question into my mind, it gives me a pause, right? Why would I be asking that question? Because I'm in a good place. I don't ask if I feel like doing something, right? I just do it. Get up, go to school and that. But sometimes that question arises in our mind. And like I said, to me, that's one of those signs of depression. You know what's another sign of depression and anxiety? Irritability. Anyone here ever experience irritability? Such even-keeled Lutherans. I love these even. You know what irritability? Yeah. Been there, right? Yeah. Parents, have you ever experienced irritability in your household? Yeah, it happens. Yeah. Well, what is irritability? To me, irritability is one of those signs that I'm not feeling well, all right? When Doug has a cold, once again, third person. This is also grammar. I bet you didn't know you'd be learning English tonight, too. Okay, this is called third person, okay, Doug. When he's not feeling well, has a sore throat, or has a headache, he can be irritable, right? A little grumpy, a little short, not patient. Well, the same can be true if we have depression or anxiety. We're really not feeling well, right? We're not feeling well. We don't feel the energy. We don't feel the desire. We're losing interest in things, right? Things that used to make us, maybe happy or excited seem kind of flat and muted all of a sudden, okay? That's what depression does to us. It zaps our desire. It zaps kind of our perspective on things. And we begin to withdraw and shut down. All right? Now, there is situational depression and anxiety, and there is clinical depression and anxiety. Situational is just what it sounds like, right? Something has happened that is making me or contributing to me feeling down. All right? I had a friend recently, they had to put their dog down. Okay? I mean, dogs are part of the family, right? I mean, you're going to feel down. You might even feel depressed, right? You may not feel like getting out of bed for a while. That would be situational, right? We're just feeling sad. And that may go on for a while, right? That may go on for weeks, sometimes months, where we're just not feeling quite ourselves, you know? And then we might say, oh, we're a little depressed. Okay, that makes sense, right? Mom and dad get a divorce. They separate. Now I got to go back and forth between two households. Feeling a little down, right? Wasn't quite what everyone expected, didn't play out the way we thought. Now life has changed, and I'm feeling stressed, all right? Feeling a little down. It makes sense, right? We injure. I mean, the list can go on of things that happen situational in our lives that contribute to feeling down, okay? Anxiety is the same way. We can have situational anxiety. We have to give a speech tomorrow in speech class. Who likes to give speeches? There's got to be something. I heard that public speaking is one of the number one things that makes people nervous. Unbelievable. What is that? What's up with that? Right? Okay. What do you think contributes to that anxiety? Why do we get anxious about speaking in front of people? Oh, you with the hand up.
There's people looking at you and you just feel nervous.
Yeah. And right now I'm standing here going, why are all these people looking at me? Something on my face? No, it's not that. But you're absolutely right. And what's the other thing? We think or believe that they're going to judge us and make fun of us, okay? We call that in the business, we get these narratives going. We get these thoughts going, right? And they start kind of weaseling their way in, and all of a sudden we're kind of believing it. Now think about it, though. When you're sitting in class and someone is giving a speech, are you really sitting there going, that was the worst speech I have ever heard? You know? We don't care, right? We're sitting there going, I don't care. I'm not really paying a lot of attention. Someone's up there yapping. I think it's Alice. You know, there she is talking about cows again. You know? We don't care. But isn't it funny? Our minds decide that people are going to be judging us. All right? And so that's kind of one of the treatments that when we work with people is we work with these narratives, these thoughts. Are they helpful thoughts? Are they real thoughts? I mean, are they accurate? Could they be distorted? Do we have to kind of change that? Maybe the narrative should be, I can't wait till speech class tomorrow because no one really pays attention. You know, I can't wait to get up in front of there. You know, no one's going to care. Okay? Once again, anxiety, a situation, leads to us feeling anxious. Now then there's clinical anxiety and depression, and circling back to what I said earlier, these are the things that are inherited. They're genetic. They're a part of the family tree, like I mentioned earlier about heart disease. Sometimes anxiety and depression and other mental health disorders run in the family, okay? And a typical time when they start to exhibit themselves is during adolescence, all right? It's when our hormones are changing, all right? So it is not uncommon that when we are working with young people or even adults, I might say to them, when did you first kind of notice you struggled with anxiety? And, middle school, high school, I started to notice it, you know? Maybe it was in grade school, but it really became a problem in middle school and high school. These worries, these stomach aches I would get. See, that's what I would get, stomach aches. All right? And then later in life, there were headaches. All right? The body began to even tell you when you were struggling in that sort of thing. Okay? Now, it's not your fault. It's not your fault if you have a tough situation. It's not your fault if it's genetic, right? Or it just is, right? It just is. But the good news is these mental health disorders and I could talk about all sorts of other ones out there, but these are kind of the two that we tend to see out there. They are treatable. They really are treatable, just like a lot of other medical conditions. Like I said, heart disease, sometimes medication and lifestyle changes can help. When I'm treating folks for depression, okay, now I don't prescribe medication. Did you know that? I forgot to mention, I'm a licensed professional counselor, okay? I'm not a doctor. A psychiatrist is a doctor, okay? And they specialize in prescribing psychotropic medication. I'm a lowly master's level counselor that just listens to people and tries to walk with them and be with them and not judge them and say, yeah, they're going through a real tough time, all right? But together, psychiatrist, or sometimes our primary care docs, right? They'll prescribe the meds, and then us counselors will work with people every other week, maybe every third week, to talk through and learn skills on how to manage these things, So take depression, for instance. I often tell people, what's the benefit of medication sometimes? It takes the edge off a little bit, all right? Imagine with me that this was a large swimming pool. Okay? And imagine that you didn't know how to swim. Okay? And imagine the water was right up to here. How do you think you'd feel about that? And let's say the sides of the pool were really a long ways away. Okay? You might feel a little like, man, if someone just splashes a little water, I think I'm going to freak out. Right? Right? That's how anxiety can feel sometimes. The water's way up here. Now, it's hard to teach someone how to swim if the water's way up here, right? But sometimes a little medication, you work with your counselor for a while, and the medication kind of helps the water go down a little. And now it's maybe chest level, maybe even gets down to about stomach level. Well, now when you work with your therapist and you work on different techniques, they have a chance to take hold. See the difference there? That's what that can do at times, to help people to manage these things like anxiety and depression. Okay? A few other little treatment things about this. With anxiety, for instance, and even depression, we will work on these narratives, all right? How can we kind of rewrite those a little bit in our minds? Sometimes we'll talk about how do you rest in the discomfort of anxiety. A lot of the treatments that we do are kind of counterintuitive, right? When people are nervous and afraid about something, what do they tend to do? They tend to avoid it, right? The problem is, if you continue to avoid the things that make you uncomfortable and nervous and maybe even afraid, your world begins to do this. It contracts and it shrinks until finally it's hard to do anything. So the treatment for things like anxiety are, can we learn to breathe through the discomfort, right? Can we learn to kind of lean into it and be with it? Kind of just be with it a little bit, breathe through, look at our thought patterns, okay, right? Because what's interesting is when we lean into the discomfort, the uncomfortable begins to become more comfortable, right? When I was a little boy, isn't that a great beginning of a story? Littler than I am now, all right? We used to have a bath once a week. There was a time when you only bathed once a week. Craziness, isn't it? Crazy talk. Once a week. And what night did we have our baths? Saturday night. Because tomorrow is what? Sunday in church. And we don't want to be stinking in church. All right? It's the one place you sit close together, you don't want to be smelly. All right? At least as a little kid, that's what I figured out. So, run the bath water. Little Dougie gets into the bathroom, got to get in the bathtub, and what do I notice when I put my little feet in that bathtub? The water is hot. It's not warm. It's hot. And now, what am I going to do? And so you kind of learn to You kind of get a little lower in the water, and a little lower in the, breathing through it, and all of a sudden, what was hot and uncomfortable becomes what? Comfortable. Because you allowed yourself to rest in the discomfort, kind of be with it, and all of a sudden, that which was uncomfortable becomes more comfortable. That's why moms and dads and young people, it's important to not give in to our anxieties at times, to really try to lean against it. I mean, sometimes we got to pull back a little, right? Okay, that was enough for now. But sometimes we got to really try to sit with it and be with it. I mean, there's days I wake up, I talk to my anxiety. Okay, I'm a professional, so it's okay for me to talk to my anxiety. There are just certain days I wake up and I go, anxiety, it looks like you and I are hanging out today. It's just, I can tell, it's been one of those days. You and I, buddy, are going to be hanging out today. So pull up a chair. We're going to be doing this together. It's interesting as it takes its power away a little bit, because I name it. I call it out. See, anxiety doesn't want you to be comfortable with it. It wants to lurk around, okay? It wants to throw little nervous things at you. But what I've learned is if I just recognize it and name it, I'm feeling a little anxious today. All right. And you know what? Me and anxiety do just fine. We do just fine. And some days he's not around at all. He's kind of fickle that way. Same can be true with depression, right? The funny thing about depression, it also wants to shrink our world. To me, the key with depression is less thinking and more doing. Less thinking and more doing. Because remember the question I brought up earlier with depression? It always asks you, do you feel like doing something? Do you feel like going to school today? No. I mean, what day do you wake up and go, I want to go to school today? I mean, come on. But if you're in an okay place, you don't go, get up, go to school, okay. But when you're down and depressed, all of a sudden it starts kind of going, you really don't, you don't want to do that, right? You don't want to go to school. And me is, no, get up and do it, right? Just do it. Nike stole that from me. I just want to let you know that. I came up with it first. Nike took it from me. Sometimes you just got to do it. You just get up and do it, all right? They say that working out, walking, being active is very good for depression. All right, I mean, it does make it releases these endorphins and other things in our brain. And oftentimes, after the fact, we feel really good. The problem is that voice doesn't want us to even do it. So that we just got to do it. If I follow the plan, if I say I'm going to work out Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, I get out of bed, work out Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. I don't ask myself, no, what's on the schedule? Work out Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. You go do it. You help push against that a little bit to help you to once again not let it manage you, but you learn to manage it. And a lot of that is what we do in therapy, okay? In talk therapy, going to see a counselor, It's an opportunity to learn these things, to talk a little bit. Sometimes it's nice to have someone just to talk to, right? That isn't it invested in your life, right? It's not your aunt or your uncle or anyone else. It's just, Doug. Going to see Doug today, And Doug has some pretty cool things in his office like my other colleagues have, Not as cool as me, but I mean, I have a little llama in my office, which I think is pretty cool. But once again, it's a chance to just talk. Sometimes just to say it out loud just helps, right? Just get it from here out here. That's why writing sometimes at the end of the day and just writing stuff and getting it out is just helpful, right? Just to kind of process it and think about it a little bit. I'm going to shift a little bit to self-harm and suicide a little bit, okay? Self-harm is when you harm yourself, right? When you do things like you cut yourself, pull your hair, your eyebrows, things like that, maybe burn yourself. These are things that people do, and we may ask ourselves, why in the world would people do such things? Well, it releases those chemicals in the brain that, surprisingly enough, kind of give people relief in a strange sort of way. And it also kind of reminds them they're alive, right? Kind of gets something there going. There are good things that help release these chemicals, and there's bad things that have negative side effects to them, okay? Gambling, pornography, okay, spending, drugs, alcohol, all these things release the same chemicals in the brain. That's why people tend to use these things. I don't go down the morality path when I talk about these things. I go down the clinical path. And people tend to do these things because they give them escape and relief for a little bit. Problem is, everything's still sitting there. And they have consequences to them, right? You cut yourself a lot, you got scars, right? There'll be a lot of scars. They're probably going to be there for a long time in your life, you know? If you gamble away your money, consequences, don't have money, right? And you start lying about things. Pornography, begin to think of men and women, dehumanizing them, okay? You begin to kind of think about intimacy with one another in warped sort of ways that just are not healthy, that affects the way you look at men and women as you go through life. Bad consequences. Drugs, alcohol, same sort of thing. You can lose your job, get addicted to these things, all right? But the reason why people do these things is because they've tried it and it seems to kind of help a little bit. What we want to do as therapists, again, is to introduce things that also release these chemicals but don't have the negative side effects, such as taking a walk, right? Being physically active, following a routine, spending time with a pet or a dog, right? Petting them releases the same chemicals. Hanging out with friends releases the same chemicals. But you know what? None of those things necessarily have a bad or negative side effect to it, right? That's what we want to do. Talk therapy can help, okay? Having a good friend to do things with. Prescribed medication by a professional provider can offer that relief, okay? So these are signs of things that means that someone is struggling and they're looking to cope and they haven't been able to find a healthy way to cope, all right? That's what's going on here, okay, within them. They're looking for ways to escape or avoid something that is just overwhelming them, and they aren't sure how to handle it or to deal with it, okay? Suicide, the taking of our own lives, is the ultimate escape and avoidance, right? It's the ultimate one. To get out. It's when life narrows, options don't seem to be there anymore, and we begin to look for a way to stop the pain. I like to remind people that suicide is about hopelessness and pain, psychic, mental, emotional pain. I mean, people begin to believe that if they're not here, it's going to be better for those around them. My loved ones will be better off, which is your mind lying to you. You ever go to a funeral of someone that died by suicide or a young person? Is there only 2 or 3 people there? It's packed. Packed. Why? Because all these people miss you. They miss that person. They care. They want them to still be around. The world's not going to be the same now without them. All right? But the feelings are real that the person's having. See, that's the problem. They seem so real. Life is narrowed so much. And so that's why I want to remind you this evening, there is always help and hope out there. There always is. Okay? It can get better. It may be hard, right? It may be just one step at a time. But there are people that care and want you to be here. You matter to so many people. Even if you don't believe it or feel it, it is true. Okay? It is absolutely true. And if you have a friend who's struggling with suicide, how do we know someone's suicidal? They'll drop little hints. You know, I wish I weren't here anymore. No one would miss me if I wasn't here. You know? Man, I just don't matter. No one cares about me. They may even say, you know, I'm getting to the point where I think I'm hurt myself. You know, sometimes they're giving things away. Here, I want you to have my I'm going to say Walkman. Walkman. Man, that dates me. That was a non-starter. But anyway, the point is, in all seriousness, they start giving you stuff. Why are you giving this to me? Just want you to have it, just in case. Just in case what? Just in case. All right? If someone says that to you, please, please, please tell someone. Tell a trusted adult, tell mom and dad. They'll call their parents, tell a teacher, tell a counselor. And if they say, please don't tell anyone, if you're a friend, you wouldn't tell anyone. And I'm here to tell you, if you don't tell someone, are you really a friend? I'd rather lose a friendship and have the person alive than have them die, especially unnecessarily. Okay? Suicide is not selfish. It's not selfish. It really isn't. Suicide is, once again, about pain. It's about people that are really struggling. And that's why we got to pay attention to each other. It's so very important that you and I pay attention to one another. Notice the signs. Ask. I always tell people, if something doesn't feel right, check it out. If something doesn't feel right, check it out. Hey, man, from the 60s and 70s, hey, man, something seems off. You doing okay? Are you sure? I mean, you're really seeming kind of down. Well, life hasn't been going so well. Well, sometimes people feel down like that. Sometimes they think about maybe they don't want to be here anymore. Do you sometimes have those feelings? Yeah, once in a while. And then here's the tough question that we as adults typically would ask then is, have you thought of suicide? Sometimes we feel down, those thoughts creep in. I'm telling you, have you been thinking about it? Now notice how I'm talking about it. Matter of fact, I'm not bringing it up in a way like I really don't want to go there. Please don't tell me you're suicidal. No. I want them to tell me. And I'll go there. Because if I say to them, you're not suicidal, are you? I'm basically saying, please don't tell me. But if I say to you, like I said, some people are down, they think about suicide. Have you been thinking about suicide? No, I'm saying I'm willing to go there. And I'm willing to get help for you. And let's sit and talk a little bit, okay? Heavy stuff, but this is kind of the real stuff is out there. COVID's taken kind of toll on us. I don't know about you. I'm finding that people are a little more struggling. Their resiliency is down. Okay? The one thing I've learned about COVID, I'm going to give you a sociological, psychological observation. And a couple of them. Remember I mentioned that how important it is to rest in the discomfort? We as a society don't deal with discomfort very well. I won't mention the masks, but I think it's a perfect example, right? We don't do well with discomfort. We don't do well if we don't quite feel, you know what I mean? That's why we got a lot of, all the drugs and all these escape methods out there because no one wants to be uncomfortable. I'll tell you what, being uncomfortable is what makes you strong. Being uncomfortable, right, gives you perseverance. Have you ever heard of the biosphere? Anyone heard of the biosphere? All right. It was in the desert, right? They built this biosphere. It was this perfect environment under a dome. Plants, flowers, trees, fruit trees. But there was a problem. The fruit trees wouldn't hold the fruit until they were ripe. They kept dropping them. Stupid trees kept dropping the fruit way too soon. Why was that happening in this perfect environment? Any guesses? What was the problem? Why was the fruit dropping? You know what makes trees strong to hold fruit? What makes trees strong? Wind, storms, right? The resistance and discomfort of wind and storms are what make the trees strong enough to hold the fruit until they are ripe. we also have to learn to be strong, right? We got to push against the discomfort. It's okay if you struggle out there. Life is hard, right? School's hard. Our world is hard. Our world is weird, right? We just had an election. Boy, that last 4 or 5 years has been a lot of fun, huh? We got world events happening. We got Russia, we got Ukraine. We got environmental issues. I was up in Alaska this summer. Glaciers, they're melting. Okay, we got all this stuff going on, and we wonder, well, what's going to happen in this world of ours? It is hard. You know what's fascinating about the Christian faith? There's a lot of things that are fascinating about the Christian faith. But the Christian faith was born in trauma and discomfort. Think about it. How comfortable do you think Holy Week was, the first original Holy Week? Do you think that was comfortable? It was traumatic. Our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, began the week with the cheers of the crowd, Hosanna, the King of Israel, Hosanna in the highest, and by Friday, he's nailed to a cross, suffocating to death. That's traumatic, right? It's traumatic. But something interesting happened a few days later, right? Why do you look for the living among the dead? He is risen. And it was a news that changed everything for everybody. These bumbling disciples who couldn't quite figure out, were they in, were they out, were they following, were they not following, changed the world. And then the persecution set in. And yet the movement never slowed down. Jesus says, I am the way and the truth and the life. I am the great I am. I am the one who exists in the now and in the present. I am the way to live. I am the truth. In a world that lies to you, I speak truth to you. And I am life. I am life. We have this for us. This is what's offered to us to be that wind that strengthens us. It's interesting that the word ruach in Hebrew for spirit is also the word for wind and breath. Ruach means all three things together. Remember, the Spirit blew over, right, in the beginning of Genesis? Or one could translate it, the wind blew over, or the breath of God circuit over that which was nothing and brought life to it. So I want to remind you of that. You have that which can strengthen you. And you matter so very, very much to our Lord, to your parents, to your church family, to your community. All right? That's probably enough talking for a while. Former pastor doesn't get a captive audience very often. I mean, come on here. So are there any questions? You can write them down. You can speak them. Excuse me? Ooh, attention deficit. We're talking about like ADD or ADHD. The question was, does attention deficit lead to depression? ADHD or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, I got it all right, thanks Courtney. I got it all right there, is one of my passions to deal with clients that a number of young people and adults struggle with attention, the ability to have attentiveness and to focus on things. And to me, we could talk hours about this disorder, and that'd be a whole different thing. I could come back and just talk an hour on ADHD, how I believe people with it are a minority in a dominant culture that is really into time and orderliness, and there is a percentage of the population for which their brain, their executive functioning of their prefrontal lobe does not equip them to be as attentive and linear and time-focused as the rest of us, okay? It is not a character flaw. It is not about laziness. It's not about underperforming. It's about biology and brain. That's what ADHD is about. And it is oftentimes anxiety, in particular, I find with the clients I work with, that people with ADHD really struggle with anxiety. Why? They're constantly being questioned. Why aren't you performing up to your potential? You know, people with ADHD, and quite a few of them are very intelligent, right? But they're always wondering, what am I forgetting? What am I not doing? What, you know what I mean? Who am I going to disappoint this time? And so they have this and which can lead to depression as well. So to answer your question, yes. People with attention deficit struggles oftentimes struggle with anxiety, and the depression can weave its way in there as well. Okay. Other questions? Yes?
How do you suggest to support somebody who is dealing with anxiety?
How to support someone who is dealing with anxiety. I think anyone who's struggling with anxiety or depression or any mental health disorder, first of all, please take it seriously, okay? Listen. What I often tell the people is, tell me more. Tell me more what you're experiencing. Tell me more of what you are going through, right? We don't want to judge someone, okay? I grew up, in a time and an age, I grew up in a German community, where we didn't talk about, this stuff didn't exist. So we thought. We just denied it, right? Pick yourself up by your bootstraps. Stop being such a, But so what we need to realize is these are real things that people are dealing with. And they can be brain related, they can be genetic, they can be situational. So we want to listen, ask how we can be supportive and encouraging. Okay? What we need to be careful about is we don't want to be enabling of it. I mean, that's the tricky balance, right? Because we think we're being kind, letting them withdraw from things, because we'd hate to see them so anxious and upset. But we have to be careful, because what I said earlier, your life shrinks. So how can we be supportive and encouraging and compassionate and yet help them? Help them to push against that discomfort. Help them to get the treatment they need, right? See their primary doctor. Go see a counselor, right? Let's face it head on. Let's learn from little on how to manage it so that it doesn't manage you. Okay, that's my big mantra with my clients. I want to help you manage it, whatever the it is, so that it doesn't manage you. Okay? Other questions? It was that profound. I mean, that. Whew. Do you want to write? I mean, did anyone not feel comfortable? Want to write a question down? I'll wander closer to you. You get a closer look at me. Look how friendly he is. Look how nice he is. Nice dresser. He has some nice socks on. Look at those socks. You don't get socks like that anywhere. Any questions? Other questions? Did I fill the hour? 45 minutes. Oh, come on. We have 15 more minutes. Yes. There's someone. Anyone with a question? Yes. Oh, sure.
What if you're trying to ask those clarifying questions and get more information and they don't want to talk, they don't want to tell you more? I know that situation.
Okay, so you're talking about maybe they're wondering if they're maybe a little self-harm or some suicidal thoughts or even feeling really down or anxious and they don't want to talk maybe to you, mom, or... No. Then what we want to say is, can we help find someone that you can talk to? Okay? And just name it and go, I know it's hard to talk to me. Sometimes kids don't want to worry their parents, right? They don't want to burden them. And it really isn't a burden. So I just want to tell you, kids, you're not burdening us. But I understand how it happens. And so then we say, can we find someone? At least try it. What I like to say to kids is, try not to prejudge seeing a counselor. I know maybe Bobby said he had a bad experience or someone else. Obviously, they didn't go to Samaritan. I mean, that couldn't happen, But just see and say, can you try it? Can you go 5 times? Go 5 times, give it a try, see how it goes, and we'll take it from there. Get a little buy-in to it, Like I said, we want to learn to become stronger. We want to be able to face the winds. So why not talk to someone? Right? It's amazing how nice. And when you come to someone like myself or other therapists, it's not that we have to stare at each other the whole time. I got Battleship. I got Sorry. I got Jenga. I got Connect 4. I got all sorts of things we can be doing as we're talking with each other because having me staring at you, I know, is going to be disturbing. Okay? So let's just hang out together as we're talking and kind of see what happens, right? And we would all do that as therapists. Just try to connect and we just be together. We're not there to judge, right? We just want to be helpful. How can we be helpful? Oh, back up. Is it possible to outgrow anxiety? If it's a situational things that are causing anxiety or depression, as time goes by, and sometimes without treatment, it goes, you kind of get past the grief or whatever, and you start feeling better in that. If it's clinical in nature, or really it was something situational, but it's really almost slipped into clinical, and then we do treatment for a while, I don't know if it ever goes away. What happens is we learn how to manage it. Okay? That's the key. It's not about being cured, right? There's no real cure for depression and anxiety, especially things that aren't situational. It's just like there's no cure for heart disease, right? I have to manage it. I have to live with it. And if I do a good job managing it, it's not going to manage me, and I'll live a very fulfilling life, right? And the same is true for anxiety and depression. With the right medication, with good tools you've learned in therapy, it's amazing how well people manage their anxiety and depression. And sometimes they can go off their medication, and the tools alone do just fine. And as things happen, ebb and flow in life, sometimes you go back to, we have clients that, we discharge them, they do well for a while, and then a couple of years later they come back for 2, 3, 4 sessions just to kind of, fine-tune some things. Oh, yeah, that's right. This is helpful. Kind of regroup again. Then they're doing just fine again. All right? So, but yeah, we typically don't outgrow it. It would be just like other medical things. It's hard to outgrow. But it's a good question. Well, I'll hang around a little bit afterwards. I told my colleague that I was going to end tonight with a Jesse Jackson quote, which ages me a little bit because I'm sure there's many people out there who don't even know who Jesse Jackson is. He's a civil rights leader. I believe he's still with us, but he's older, an old guy now. But when I taught confirmation class, I would begin and end with this quote from Jesse Jackson. I am somebody. Respect me, protect me, but never neglect me. If my mind can conceive it and my heart can believe it, I know I can achieve it. Down with dope, which is a name for marijuana. Up with hope. I am somebody. Jesus sees each one of us as somebody who matters. Don't let anyone or anything ever take that from you. Okay? Great being with you.
Thank you so much. Jackson, can you come up here, please? So we're going to end this time together. Again, thank you for coming. We really appreciate it. We're going to end this time together in prayer. This is something that we do as a group. And then we have treats for you that some of our very kind ladies offered. So please, there's drinks, there's food. Let's have some time together, okay? So first of all, we're going to start off with some prayer requests. Does anybody have anything they would particularly like to pray for? Can we say, let's thank Doug for coming tonight. Let's see. I am thankful for Doug. Anybody else have things we need to pray for? Yes. She's having surgery. Oh my. Pray for Allison. Okay. All right, you put it wherever you want to put it. Anything else we need to pray for? Yes, Barrett. Pray for the Ukraine. Anything else? Yes. You got grounded from your phone? I'm so sorry to hear that. We are going to pray for you and your phone. That's tough, man. Whoops, pick that up for me, please. All right, what's yours, Jackson? Safety. So some weird guy was chasing him home last night. So we're grateful for safety, right? I'm thankful for safety. All right. So how do you want to end your prayer? Oh, okay. Thank you. Here, you're going to use the mic so that everybody can hear you.
Nice.
Nice and close.
This? Okay. Perfect. Oh boy. Heavenly Father, I'm thankful for Doug. I pray for Allison and safety. I'm hurting over Ukraine, and I don't like Aiden and his phone. Holy Spirit, hear my prayer. Amen.
Thank you. Please feel free to join us, everybody. Thank you for coming.
Aiden, I hope you get your phone back.